doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Stand a little taller. Doesn't mean I'm lonely when I'm alone. What doesn't kill you makes you fighter. With that even higher. Doesn't mean I'm over. 'Cause you're gone. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. So before we get started, I'm just going to give you a quick reminder that this video is going to be a part 2 out of the last video. So basically it's just a continuation. So the topic we're going to continue discussing today is highest common factor method 2. So now we are going to go on to method 2, and in this method you are going to be using the product of prime numbers. So it may be more efficient if the numbers are much larger than the ones that we would use in method 1. So let's get started with our first example. So our first example that we are going to do is going to be with the numbers 225, 315, and 495. And just like in the last example, I'm going to do the first one with you, and then the rest I'm going to just speed through so that this video isn't too long, and also so that we can get on to the main part of it. Because the product of prime numbers was the main topic in the last video, but in this video, it is going to be the highest common factor. So, let's get started. Okay, so just like with factors, we will start off by writing down the number 225 on the right-hand side and drawing a line down the middle just to divide it up. So now we are going to start off with our first prime number, which is 2. So 225 divided by 2 does not work. It gives you a remainder, so it cannot be a prime number that we can use. So then we are going to go on to 3. And 225 divided by 3 gives us 75, so it does work with no remainder, so we are going to write it right underneath the number 225. So now, as we usually do, we're going to continue with that prime number until it no longer works. So 75 divided by 3 gives us 25, which will be written below the 75. And then 25 divided by 3 is going to give us a remainder, so our next biggest prime number is going to be 5. So 25 divided by 5 gives us 5, which we'll write down below the 25, and 5 divided by 5 gives us 1. So now we are done working out the product of prime numbers. So now we just have to write it out like we usually do. Okay, so to write it out, we are first going to start by writing down 225 equals to 3 times 3 times 5 times 5. And as I did explain to you, you could also write it as 3 to the power of 2 with a dot, timesing it by 5 to the power of 2, because there are 2 5s and there are 2 3s. I also explained that in full detail in the last video, so go check it out if you don't understand what I'm talking about. Okay, so now we are going to speed through the next 2 numbers, and as soon as I'm done with that, I will get back to you so that we can work out the highest common factor. Okay, so just like I explained in the last example, we are going to observe closely at all 3 of the lists of numbers. And first of all, we are going to find which prime numbers are common in all 3 of the rows. So let's start with the first one, 3. Okay, so by 225 there is a 3, and then in 315 there is a 3 right next to it as well, and 1 in 495. So there is a whole row of it, so it is common. So we can circle it on our first one. Now going down to the next 3, there are also 3s in 315 and the product of prime numbers of 495. There's a whole row, so that whole row makes it common. So we can circle that 3. Now going on to 5. 5 is also common in all 3 of the rows, and it is a straight line, which means that you can circle it, and it is also going to be part of our highest common factor. Okay, so going on to the last row of prime numbers, there is a 5, and then by 315 there is a 7, and then there is an 11, which means that the 5 is not common, and the 7 is not common, and the 11 is also not common. So we are not going to circle that 5. Now we need to write this out. So first off, we're going to start by writing down HCF, which is highest common factor, is equal to 3 times 3 times 5, or we can write it as 3 to the power of 2 times 5, which equals to 45. So the highest common factors are 45. Okay, so we are on to our second and final example where we are going to be using the numbers 28, 36, and 12. So I'm quickly going to speed through working out the product of prime numbers out of all three of these numbers, and I will get back to you when we are ready to work out the highest common factor. So now we are ready to work out the highest common factor. So first of all, we have to observe closely at our different rows of prime numbers. So let's start off by 28. Our first prime number on the list is 2. And as we can see going across by 36, there is also a 2, and by 12 there is also a 2, which means that 2 is common. So we are going to circle it in our first row. Going down to the number below the 2, there is another 2. So working across there by 18, there is also a 2, and by 6 there is a 2. So there's a whole row of it, which means that 2 is also common in all three of the numbers. Then going on to our last row, which is below that 2, which is a 7. There is a 7 by the prime numbers of 28, but by 36, there is a 3 and another 3, which means that 7 is not common in all three, because then by 12, there is just a 3. So that means that 7 and those two 3s are not common because they are not found in all three rows of those three numbers. So now we have to write it out. So we are going to say that the HCF equals to 2 times 2, which is 4. So the highest common factor of those three numbers is 4. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all next time.